Good morning. I think we're probably going to have a small group this morning, and we didn't do any advertising, so people probably don't remember that this is Mornings with the Mayor. But we will show it on my website here at the official one at City, and I will also post it on my own serving as mayor personal webpage so people can view this later. So I realize I might be the only one up having my coffee this morning, but that's okay too. There's just a couple things. I didn't get any questions. And again, if you have questions, please send those in advance so I can make sure I answer any questions that folks have right here when we're live. Right now, I do want to just tell you a few things. Last Monday, the masking mandate ended, and we did do a very short one as we were told through the modeling that Mayo Clinic did that would be short-lived, and it was, although we are still not out of the woods, and that's what I want to talk about. While the mandate was only 3 weeks, and it did end, we still are in a high rate of spread. In fact, higher than we'd seen for a long time. The numbers have dropped precipitously. I think that's positive. But again, we are still in a high rate of spread. So what that means is the City Council and myself, Olmsted County Public Health, Mayo Clinic, are all asking that you please continue to mask for your own safety. If you are vulnerable, you are unvaccinated, and you are out in the community, it is best to continue to distance, use all those methods that we've learned about over the last couple of years, and wear a mask. And even if you are healthy, it's still kind and helpful to others to wear a mask to protect them, particularly if you have any thought at all that you might have been exposed to COVID, or you have even what appears to be cold symptoms, aren't feeling well, have a fever, have a bad headache, consider wearing a mask, staying home if at all possible. So just wanted to let you know that the mandate is over, but the request to wear masks really isn't. We will continue to update you. Olmsted County Public Health's website and the Minnesota Department of Health's website keep the numbers on there for a day-to-day and week-to-week basis, so you can see how fast or slow the spread is. We are still at around 11% spread rate, positivity rate locally, and we hope to be under 5. That's kind of a more comfortable level. So just to let you know a little bit where we stand. So that's it with our weekly, monthly COVID update. I guess I'm doing these mornings with the mayor monthly now. I did want to let you know a couple things that happened since the last time we got together. I was pretty shocked at how much time, all that's happened and how much time has passed. One, I know you've seen in the news, we were awarded the Bloomberg Global Mayor's Challenge grant. That has happened since we met last. It is $1 million that will be coming into our community for job training, education, business supports in order to help our residents who were most impacted by the pandemic come out of the pandemic in a better place with careers in the construction and built environment fields. That might be a 4-year degree in architecture. It might be a really quick training out at our community college or workforce development center to get you employed in a high-paying job quickly. But that'll be rolling out over the next year and for 3 whole years. We also have some additional funds that will be coming from the federal government, we hope, if they pass their appropriations bill. And we've applied for a couple other grants as well. And this will be a community effort, so it's not really just a city effort. The city won the challenge, but the resources and the effort will be community-wide. Many of our nonprofits like Cradle to Career, the Diversity Council, Jeremiah Program, there's a number of programs that you'll be seeing as well that will be part of this, as well as businesses. So very exciting. Also, just this past week, we were presented with an award that we got just some time ago, a few months ago, which is we're considered a runner-friendly city, and very few of those are awarded. I think the designation, if I'm not mistaken, lasts for 5 years, and we can apply again. But we are a runner-friendly city. And part of that was due to all the wonderful activities that the Rochester Running Club does, but also the fact that our city, our park and rec, many area businesses do a lot to support running, good health. The paths are kept swept. If you go out through any of our parks and paths, those are kept swept and cleaned and cleared, even through the winter months with heavy snow. And that's not something you can expect in every city. So that was really exciting to get that. We were really pleased that the running club showed up at our city council meeting to do that. So hooray and thank you. A couple other things. I do have a Mayor's Youth Council, and I just wanted to touch on that. We have students from the four area high schools, as well as our community college, Winona State, and UMR, that come and talk and learn about city government every month, and then share ideas, ask questions, just to help them understand the role of the city, what we do and don't do, and get their feedback on what do they want out of a community, what do our young people want. One of the things I found as mayor over the last 3 years, but I knew it before, but it's become even harder to communicate with people, all swaths of life. How do you reach young people? How do you reach people that are working? How do you reach senior citizens who are particularly during the pandemic, are at home more? And, our methods of sharing and gaining information in the past, which was a physical paper, aren't as prevalent. Online versions and other sources like Twitter, Instagram are where people get their news. And so it has become harder and harder to reach people, to get feedback. So the Mayor's Youth Council is one thing I've done over the last couple of years to hear from our young people and inform them about what the city does. I think that's also useful in a number of ways. We have things happening in our community, like down by the riverside. And those conversations with the young people helped us to understand that while many of us are familiar with down by the riverside every Sunday during the summer, or some of the forward concerts in our local parks, our youth weren't aware of those. I hadn't been to them. And so to me, that just raised the issue that we really have to think of what are better ways that we can reach the different demographic areas. So hopefully you'll be seeing us trying a little harder to do things that will reach all those demographics so that everybody knows what's happening in the city of Rochester. Another point that I think is worth making is that we have had interest over the past number of years, but recently a lot of interest in what's happening in the city of Rochester. Of course, when you have the world famous Mayo Clinic, right here in the city, of course, there's always been visitors and people that have known of Mayo Clinic, the great, life-saving work and research that they do, the great healthcare they offer, but that there are other opportunities here with Destination Medical Center, with our community growing. We continue to grow every single year, and I know you've all seen the demographics that show that continues, and we become more diverse over time, that there are business opportunities in our community too. So was a program and a virtual conference called Health Cities, which was really interesting. It was actually a very good conference, and it focuses on cities that provide health care, that health is the focus of that city. What's different about our city? What are some things that that people might want to know about that kind of city, and how are we changing with the times? So that was a very, very good conference, actually, and interesting. And then we were contacted recently, and I done an interview. It hasn't been published yet. There are two, actually, groups that contacted the city and DMC and community groups. One was a subsidiary, if you will, of the New York Times, called the Japan Times. And so I did an interview, and I think DMC is interviewing with them this week, so that Japanese companies can learn about what's happening in Rochester and why this might be a place they would want to have an office or start a business, or why entrepreneurs might want to come to Rochester if they're interested in healthcare. There's another group called Invest, and they actually are publishing a magazine about the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, but they have a section about Rochester. And so they've done some interviews. They're actually holding a conference next week, and I'll be a moderator on a panel there, which should be very interesting. Again, kind of focusing on this idea of our city for health and what that means and what we're doing. So it's nice to see Rochester being noticed. We always, as I mentioned, this isn't absolutely new, because with Mayo Clinic here, a lot of people know about Rochester. But often because they're coming here for healthcare, we want them to know about our wonderful community, all we have to offer as a place to live and work. So that's been kind of an exciting thing. Lots of things just in the last 30 days. thought I'd share with you. There's been a lot of talk at the City Council about bus rapid transit and the new line that we will hopefully get in the coming years. It takes a long time to come up with a concept, get it through all the federal processes, get funding. I know there have been some changes presented, so it was before the City Council, and I think there's a little confusion about those processes, and we'll actually be getting money from the federal government. Not that we don't have our share, we do for any project, but that the federal government, the tax dollars that we pay to the federal government get to come back in our community rather than go to some other community. So it's a very positive thing for our community, and the reasons the price tag went up a little bit and the City Council was hearing it again is because they're looking at providing that bus service very regular, going east to west through our community. And they're providing sheltered space when you get off. There'll be great bus shelters. You can go from that shelter down underground into buildings in the downtown area of St. Mary's Hospital in particular. But sheltered, safe, fast, convenient bus routes. So it was very exciting. That came forward. And in addition to that, our other bus routes, our more traditional bus routes throughout the community, are continuing to upgrade. We are expecting this spring our electric buses. I had Gillig, the company that currently provides our buses. It will not be our first electric bus provider, but they've been a little slower to come into the game, but I think they feel like they've waited and the technology's improved, so they're getting it at a good time. But I rode the Gillig bus, had a demonstration. Really quiet ride, both inside and out, even with the heater on. And so that was fascinating. It was really nice to be able to tool through town a little bit and get a chance to ride on one here. I've ridden on them in Europe, of course, and I think we had a couple years ago a demonstration bus come through, and I wasn't available at that time to ride one. But we also have that little shuttle running through Rochester, the driverless shuttle, which is also electric. So I encourage you to try those out when you have the opportunity, and hopefully this spring that electric bus will arrive and we can all have an opportunity to ride it. Other issues that have come before the City Council of late. There's been discussion about a number of issues, the riverfront development, Silver Lake, and what might be done to that with dredging, removing the dam, making that a kayakable and a little more safe environment without the dam there. There's a little controversy around it, and we're working with the neighbors whose backyard view will change as that lake is narrowed right there at the dam point, and it actually will continue to be a dam, but it's not a physical dam. It's a more natural dam with tiering of the water slowly down so that you could take a kayak or canoe down it. So that's being worked through, and of course we need funding for all these things. But just like those two issues I just mentioned, the riverfront properties in Silver Lake, we also have been talking about golfing and our parks in the community, and the City Council's had some discussion about that, and I've been working to try to, with the administration, do citizen input. So for instance, on the golf issue, I pulled together some people I know that are regulars on the golf course, men and women, people that run children's programs, to really talk about what can be done to make certain that our golf courses run efficiently and are financially supportable into the future, and that also think about just like our city infrastructure, which we never collect enough money and save enough money that when 50 years hits and the sewer systems break, we need them larger because the population has grown. We don't have that money easily and ready available to do a huge millions and millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars of repairs. Well, that's the same with our golf courses. When you think about sprinkler systems that were put in, or swimming pools for that matter, when you put in a heated swimming pool, which you need in a state like Minnesota, and after 50 years, or in the case of Silver Lake Golf Course, which will be 100 years old next year, the sprinkler systems need to be replaced. And those are very expensive capital investment projects. And so, just like our sewers, we don't have that money just sitting in a pot ready to spend. And the community is always very clear about and concerned about increasing property taxes or sales taxes, and they want to make sure that we're thinking these things through. But when these legacy projects or 100-year upgrades to infrastructure happen, we have to find a way to pay for those. And so that's really what has been happening, either looking for federal or state funds to help us, bonding dollars in some of these cases, but also what can we do locally with our fee structures, for instance, to keep golfing something people can afford to do, but also help sustain the programs. So those are some of the things that we're doing to include, and we include citizen input in those. So the Golf Task Force has just met a few times, and we'll make some recommendations and send those forward. The Silver Lake, I met with the Friends of Silver Lake, and we have another meeting tomorrow to talk with them about their concerns, because of course we want everyone whose property butts up to Silver Lake to still love the view. I know that that lake is there for them, and that nothing is done that diminishes their property values or their home. So we'll have those talks. And with the riverfront properties downtown, what's along the riverfront, citizen input, we had our first meeting this past week, but they will be continuing over the coming weeks. So if you missed one, they're focused differently. Please look on the city website for information about how you can give your input and participate. I think we had about 28 people that were on the last call. There's room for many, many more, and they break you out into small rooms on your computer. It's virtual, so that you can continue to communicate. And hopefully, as spring hits, we'll be able to have those meetings in person. So those are just a couple of citizen input things that are happening in our community. Let's see, I want to talk a little bit about homelessness. Some of you have shared your concern over time about our homeless population, and how are we going to continue to care for them as the use of the Silver Lake Fire Station, as determined by the City Council, has come to an end here. It will come to an end in April. And so the landing, which has been occupying and running the day center, along with a day center over at the Salvation Army, to have a place for food and shelter and services, lots of wonderful services at those day spots, the day centers. I'm concerned that we're losing one here very soon, and we're going to have to hope that they find another location here within the next month or so. If you have any good ideas, contact the landing for properties that might be available for purchase or maybe even lease, for them to have a place for the homeless to go. Because as many of you remember, we did have an issue in our skyways and our subways and our parks where the homeless don't have anywhere to go, and it isn't safe, maybe feeling for the community, but also safe for individuals, some of which are still outside during this bitter cold weather we've had, due to their inability to be allowed to stay at a day or night center because of their own behavior sometimes, also by their choice. They're choosing to stay outside, and 30-degree below zero wind chill, it's a little frightening. But we are worried about what will happen when the day center closes. How will we manage that as a community? So those discussions are happening. The city, county, and school district have tri-government meetings, which happen quarterly, and we happen to have one today. So I'm hoping this topic can be discussed there, and that we can maybe apply for some state grants. There's also a webinar, or I guess it's a statewide group of city leaders to talk about homelessness, because it isn't just a Rochester problem, it's across the state, even in some small towns. So how are we going to handle that? So those discussions have come up and will continue to go on across all year, but particularly in the coming months as the landing gets ready to have to move out in April. Did want to tell you that one of the great services, I've had some wonderful meetings with this group. The Mayo medical students have a health clinic that is, they go to the Salvation Army, they go to the landing. They too have contacted me because they're concerned about not having a place to go to help and reach the homeless population who have significant health care needs. Many don't have health insurance, of course. So they've been going to the landing to provide those services, and are concerned too about what might happen. How will they continue to provide the services that they feel passionate about to this population if there's no place to go? So all of that will be discussed. I just want you to know it's an issue that's near and dear to many people's hearts in this community, and we are not forgetting those folks who do need services. So we'll keep you updated as more information is known. I thought I would share, as we wind up here, one really fun thing that I was able to do. I was able to marry someone for the very first time. We had a very short wedding at City Hall. It was really, you look for those. What are the really meaningful and fun things that I get to do, and that was certainly one of them. So congratulations to Dave and Martha on their wedding, and also some fun things I get to do as mayor. Some days are very stressful. So days are always busy, filled with meetings. But days when I get to meet with the community. I'm going to be reading virtually, of course, now during the pandemic. I'm going to be reading to some children. I found some help from the teachers in the library, reading some books about what a mayor's role is. I'll be doing that here soon. So that's always February's I Love to Read month. So that's always a fun time. Also, let's see. I think worth mentioning maybe is the really exciting new flights that are going out of the Rochester airport. Many people were really concerned when the Denver flight was canceled. And of course, that wasn't done by the city of Rochester. In fact, we were all very disappointed. But during the pandemic, the airlines are just struggling, as you can imagine. And even though that flight to Denver from Rochester was, I would say, probably a moneymaker even during the pandemic for them, they have to look at their whole system, and they made some really dramatic changes. I believe that was United. We're hoping they'll come back in the future, or we can reinstate that link to Denver. It was really, I know a lot of people really liked it. So we are disappointed about that, but we are excited about the addition of Sun Country to Rochester, where 2 times a week they fly to Phoenix, Arizona, and 2 times a week they fly to Fort Myers, Florida. So for people in Rochester that are looking for that escape, even for a short time, there are direct flights to both Phoenix and Fort Myers out of the Rochester airport. Easy airport to go to. Parking is of course close and uncomplicated, and it's a very easy airport to get in and out of. So I would encourage you to take a look at that if you are looking for a getaway to consider, and even if you're going further, as a couple of the city council members and I are heading off to Washington, D.C. for the National League of Cities convention here in a few weeks. We are flying out of Rochester. That if you haven't done that, check the connections. They continue to improve. During the pandemic, things are a little different, but they continue to improve those flights and the connections, and it'll get better as we come out of the pandemic even than it is now. But the costs often are very similar. On occasion, I've actually found them cheaper. You have to look. So don't just assume it's cheaper out of the Twin Cities. Look first, and you might be surprised. So with that, I'll say we're kind of coming to the end of the list of things I wanted to talk about. So I will just sign off. I wish you a wonderful February, and I will see you again in March for Mornings with the Mayor. Thanks so much.